exactly. Yeah, the session for today is disaster recovery, the inner behind the scenes. I'm Casper van Vliet. I'm senior consultant with DMP, and as Greg was mentioning about DMP, data management and your data safe in our hands is, let's say, our leitmotif. We exist in managing your data the best as we can. And one of the important parts with data management is, recover from a disaster. As Greg was mentioning, DMP been active in the market for quite a while now. We have several software and hardware vendors that we use to build our solutions. And one of the things we use these vendors is build solutions around disaster recovery and restore services. To go on that part, business continuity and disaster recovery is still very high on the priority list. Let's say for the CEOs in the market, it's a top priority. It's combined with a corporate risk, losing data by ransomware attacks, that's destroying data, but also the risk of losing data, your data of your company falling in the wrong hands, and people selling the information or selling your most precious information on a broader market. So for CEOs, it's on a top priority list in IT. This state is from the CIO magazine from IDG. So it's an international part of this session. The guys in the technical seats, the CTOs and the CIOs, they already saw it coming, that this is a really important part. So investments were already brought to security risk management to cope with ransomware problems, with data loss prevention solutions, with access, secure access solutions. So it's really high on the priority list of a lot of companies. We also see that in the Netherlands, and I believe in Germany too, that a lot of IT departments are asking, hey, I'm using a backup solution. DMP has provided the backup solution. Can you give me some kind of guarantee that I will be able to return to a normal state or to a production state using my technology? For my part, it's a discussion and a talk that I have with customers daily. So we see really the trend that I'm showing here is also what's actually happening. And the question that we ask is, what is it you as a company are preparing for? And in a lot of those talks, we see that companies are talking about these kinds of events, fires or flooding of your data center. Well, in the Netherlands, these flooding problems are possibly a bit more possible than maybe in Germany. But, well, there are a lot of disasters, natural disasters that can occur, or bouncing jumbo jets that can hit several data centers. That's all the stuff that a lot of IT-minded people are trying to cope with in designing their disaster recovery solutions. But there's also the rogue administrator, threats from inside, people that are not happy to work with your company, and they're getting into a conflict and are able to destroy stuff. That's our situation that you are preparing for to cope with in your disaster recovery planning. But that's not the only thing we see, and I think in Germany it's the same. Is that the other thing we're preparing for, and that's really high on the list, is, well, this is an older screenshot, but it was really devastating for a lot of companies that got hacked and got this software running around in their environment. And that's also something I was looking into the news, what was happening in Germany with problems with such attacks. and I found some really disturbing screenshots of situations where a ransomware attack can be really well, devastating for your IT environment, and it's, I think, almost as harmful as a natural disaster. So that's what we are addressing as a situation where you want to push the button and let's have a disaster recovery. Let's make sure that we can continue our processes, our IT process. Of course, the human factor within a company is the most important part, but the second most is in most situations a IT process, an email system, an ERP system, or that kind of situations that you want to have really as fast as possible available for your organization. And the thing you don't want is a solution that you need to run with yourself and have a lot of people trying to do their best to cope with the problem at hand. It might work, but it's really putting a burden on your organization. So that's what we also address within our circle of competence. DMP is a company with a lot of, let's say, themes that we can touch: data security, backup, storage, but also the business continuity part. So part of our data management as a service portfolio is business continuity solutions. And for that part, we have a few guys within the office that are, let's say, the subject matter experts, guys like Dominique Boernema and Loïc Constantino. I gave this presentation also in the Netherlands, and those guys were in the room. At this time, they're not available in this session, but I can pass any questions concerning disaster recovery or recovery solutions directly to the subject matter experts and have a discussion with you guys around the topic. What is DMP offering within the disaster recovery space and the availability of your data and your environment? Well, our services comprise of a impact and security analysis. So we assist our customers in creating, let's say, a talking environment with the stakeholders within the company to do an impact analysis. Okay, what's going to happen when your system is not available? Which systems are crucial in your environment? What are the dependencies? The other part is the security health checks for backup resiliency. If you need to be need to rely on your backup process to restore stuff, you want to be sure that that's not one of the things that got lost in the disaster or in the ransomware check. So a lot of the impact and security analysis are evolving around that part to make sure you are you know what the topic is as a company, you know what the topic is you need to talk about with your stakeholders, or are your systems ready? Other services that we deliver are DR runbooks and DR tests. So for a few customers, we created custom runbooks on premises for on-premises situations and control testing methods to see if the DR runbook is actually working. That's the most important thing a DR runbook needs to do. So the testing part is a very important part of this of these kind of services. And also DMP is offering high available DR infrastructure. So in Germany and in the Netherlands, we have a few data center locations which are equipped with our hybrid cloud infrastructure to use as a location where you can run your infrastructure in the case of a disaster. But also we are offering all these services as a DR as a service solution. And we do that under the umbrella of DAMAS. We call it DAMAS as a data management as a service. It consists of several services we offer, like Office 365 backup solutions, or managed backup or managed storage. And the DAMAS DR is also part of this portfolio. And when we start these services, or start talking with the customer about these services, the first thing is that we say is, okay, where to start? And where to start is always with the emergency planning. Emergency planning is something that a lot of companies from a certain size have or are mandatory to have in place. What to do in case of emergency. We have the BHV'ers, the people that need to take care of the human part of a company in the case of a disaster. I'm not really good in what the German equivalent is, but it's the guys with the lighting jackets that direct people to certain locations or know what to do in a disaster. But is there also an IT emergency plan? So what is identified as an IT emergency? That are the cases, that are the things that we start with. What's in scope of a disaster recovery? What is in scope of an IT emergency? What is it we need to plan for? And one of the important things is that we need to create within the company, within your organization, a clear and approved definition of these IT emergency scenarios. And we always say, okay, you need to involve all the business stakeholders in this definition process, because you see if it's being gradually discussed, there's always someone within the organization that's saying, okay, but what if in this scenario, what will we do then? So it really is important to create a clear definition of, okay, these are the scenarios we need to cope with. This is what we need to go and do to prepare us for. And it's the starting plan of your business continuity. The business continuity plan is your, let's say, your plan B. What if this happens? What do we need to do? DNP on the website has a disaster recovery workbook, and this is a document that you can use as a walkthrough in how to determine all kinds of processes and all kinds of questions you need to ask yourself and ask your business stakeholders. Okay, this is what we need to take a look at to have a business continuity planning. This disaster recovery workbook is available via our website, but I can also ask Greg to distribute it by email with you. What are the examples of these business requirements? Like, okay, what's the main business process? What applications are connected to that? What data do we need to run? We always say, okay, it's important to have this plan in place, and it can result in certain costs. It's also always a good thing to consider your insurance options in seeing what an insurance company can add to these kinds of planning and situations. Some companies in the Netherlands demand that you have a business continuity plan in place, but we also see that in the case of an emergency, that the insurance company have within their service that they will pay for everything in the case you need to do a disaster recovery on another location. So it's really interesting to have a talk with your insurance guys about business continuity planning and how the financial part is managed. In this, after this scenario, after this situation, we will, let's say, take it from there. The important part is that your organization needs to be ready to have all the questions answered about, okay, what's important, what are dependencies of different applications, who are important people within our organization. That's where we come in with our DEMAS DR, where we put your business continuity plan into a practice. And as you see, it has a paper tiger on the bottom. It's not something we want to offer as a paper tiger. It's something we need to work on, and I will show you in this presentation that it will be something that is being thoroughly tested, and we will take every step to have not only a disaster recovery in paper, but actually have a plan that works and that you can use every moment you need it. Our DMAS DR service is an extension of our Cloud Drive or DMAS backup as a service process. So within our capability to run a disaster recovery on top of our hybrid cloud, we first need to have your data to use in order to make all the necessary preparations to have a disaster recovery. So it's the Cloud Drive standard is a mandatory part of the DMAS DR, or you may be using the DMAS backup service. Then it's also DR is also an extension on it. And the thing is, we will really want to go in a long-term partnership. So not only delivering a plan and good luck. No, it's a commitment for several years. And within those years, we're going to have a very intimate relation concerning IT and IT availability. Disaster recovery services in our hybrid cloud are situated in the Netherlands or in Germany. We have several locations, and it's also possible to do disaster recovery in Azure. I've got a notation in this presentation that True, it's one of the partner companies that DMP has within the Broad Horizon group, and they can help with the Azure onboarding. That's in the Netherlands, but I think Greg also has a lot of partner companies that can assist you in building something within Azure and have us do the DMAS DR on Azure resources. So it's possible. It's something we need to have a talk with you as a customer on how to address that. And as I was saying, it's not only a plan, it's an extensive testing procedure that we will go through with recurring DR tests. And we also make it possible to do not only the scheduled DR testing, but also create an environment where you can log in, and every time your IT administrator wants to test certain limited sets of an application or have a small DR test of a process that is that was updated and you need to test it. So it's not a static environment; it's a living document and an environment that you can access every day, 24/7. What's included within the DMAS DR service? At first, it's a DR plan. The DR plan states everything that you need to know in order to have a successful disaster recovery. And I will go into that part maybe a little bit later. The other part is the DR runbook, which is actually describing the steps that you need to do in order to get to a certain level of recovery. Within the DR runbook, we say, okay, this is the steps you need to take to be able to access the restore capabilities of DMAS. It states also when a process needs to be tested. Green lights are very interesting, but a green light does not say a process or a service is actually working. So an important part of our DMAS DR service is the testing procedure that we need to set up together with the application owner or the stakeholders that you involve within this service. And we deliver the testing template, but well, we can't decide when a process or when a service is actually running within specification. So that's where we need you or your application owner to give a input into the testing procedure. What's also included is the DR maintenance plan. It's, let's say, the upkeep of the DR plan. We tap into your change procedures within your environment, and on scheduled times, we will ask of you to share with us the changes of within your environment. And how we do that together is something that we discuss. What's best suited within your company, and all these things that we discuss about we agree on. We put in a DAP. The Dutch stands for Dossier, Afspraken en Procedures. In English, it's a file where appointments and procedures, what it is that we deliver, is being actually written down in a document that you can always access and see, okay, this is what I've agreed on with DMP. This is the procedures that we need to take care of. These are the people that we that need to be contacted. We put it all in a dossier to well, complete the service. And what's also included is that we prepare a DR environment within DMP. This DR environment is built around our hybrid cloud, which is a secure multi-tenant VMware environment, which runs in the Netherlands or in Germany. And we take care of secure remote access based on Beyond Trust, which is some kind of reversed VPN solution to be sure that only you as a customer can access these environment and not someone that is not allowed to. Within this DR environment, we create a customer VRF, which is the networking topology of the customer environment that we need to build, that we need to have in order to have a successful disaster recovery. A lot of customers are using very complex VLAN situations and routing tables and that kind of stuff. We tend to do it optimized for restore. One thing that we learned is that you don't want to troubleshoot VLAN routing or firewall ports that are not open during a disaster recovery. So we think security is really of a high grade, but we try to find the understanding on, okay, this is an optimized environment for restore, because the thing we want to accomplish is to have you as fast as possible up and running to run your business. There can be VPN options, and the Cloud Drive and restore capabilities are all preset within this environment to have a starting point to go with the DR plan. One of the interesting parts of our cloud is that there's no bandwidth or egress costs, so everything you put in as a data you can always pull out without having hidden cost being sent to you. We have several phases. The first phase is a workshop. At first, we send you a DR intake questionnaire that you can share within your organization to have all the questions that were also stated in our DR workbook, put more in a more structured way for us to have a discussion with your company and the stakeholders within your company about what's the scope of the disaster recovery. So that's a piece of homework. And after that, we have a DR workshop, multiple workshops if needed, with all the stakeholders, with all the application owners that are part of the disaster recovery scenario, to talk about everything that's in the questionnaire and start filling our DR plan and DR runbook templates. And we share with you the customer test planning to start thinking about, okay, what do we need to do in order to have a successful reboot of a service? When is it running within specifications? These are, let's say, examples of the documents that we share. It's very extensive, and we try to have as much information as possible. And as I was saying, green lights are really interesting, but the most important part is that is the green light also representing a service that is up and running and for the end user ready to use. What's being written down in the DR plan? The DR plan has all kinds of topics going, the notification authorization within your company, who needs to be notified, who is authorized to say to state a disaster recovery scenario, to start it. What are the different roles within the company? Are there any important people that have an important part within the DR process? What if those people are not available? How are communication lines going? Also important is the scope. For what situations is this plan written? It's always a good outline to have a clear understanding what it is we're trying to cope with. The what, the when, the how, and the where to are also the important questions, together with the RTO and RPO and the retention that we need to take in consideration. So everything you see here is being put in an extensive document that we call the DR plan, and all the practical parts of the DR process are being put in the DR runbook. But after this first phase, the second phase comes in, and that's testing. The first DR test is really about validating the steps that we've written down in the DR plan and the DR runbook, and see what's missing, because the first test will, I think, in most situations, will always fail. And that's a good thing, because then you can see what's missing and start managing your disaster recovery workbook and change what needs to be changed. So it's a good thing to have a fail. And that's something we do after that, is a very extensive evaluation of this first DR test, and tune and optimize the procedures. Then the DR plan and all the processes are going back and forward with the customer. And then we end up in, let's say, the second phase, which also accomplish a lot of additional testing. The second DR test we would like to have at the DMP site, so we can have all the focus on the DR process. So, and we would also like to invite all the stakeholders to participate within the first and the second test, because we need to have a close communication situation in order to change the things. The second DR test is really in validating the DR runbook and the test plan. In most cases, the second DR test is a successful one. There are always small changes that we need to make in the reviewing process, and in certain situations we do a third, and we also had a fourth DR test, just to be really sure that everything is working within specifications. After that, we can have an approval on the testing part, and the third phase of our disaster recovery as a service process is, let's say, the long-term commitment, where we do yearly or half-yearly testing of the DR plan, that what we've written down, to see if it actually works, together with our people and the stakeholders within the plan, that we ask, okay, we are going to do a DR test, come over, let's have some kind of war room situation and start running all the steps within the DR runbook. In order to keep up with all the changes in your environment, we have a DR maintenance plan, and that's tapping into your change process. And every company has a different approach in how they administrate changes in the environment. So we try to tap into that. Maybe it's some additional procedures that you put in your changing plan. So you upgrade a certain database to a higher version, and part of that change process is sending an email to the address that's stated in the DAP, in order to tell us about this change, so we can keep it up to date in the DR maintenance plan and the DR runbook. We have a clear RASCI table. What are the responsibilities, and who's being informed, and who's being supportive within the whole process. It's all stated in the DAP, together with the SLA what can we expect of this service, and all the procedures that are custom to your organization are put in this DAP, and this DAP will be updated yearly. So that's, let's say, our disaster recovery as a service. Normally, these agreements tend to go for 3 or 4 or 5 years, because it's not something you do in on a Friday evening. It's really it's an important part for the company, and we tend to take it's a lot of work. So let's not let it go to waste and have it for several years in place. Well, what is it we have within the DEMA's DR solution? This is a very well simplified slide. We collect the backup data and we send it to our cloud. The more important slides are, okay, what is it? What type of service are we offering for you to choose from to have the right recovery time objective for your process or for your application. The most basic one is DEMA's DR standard, which is based on initiating a restore of the backup data. So part of the plan is that we get a signal from your organization. Okay, we are in a disaster recovery situation. We need to activate the plan right now, and we start restoring data from the backups that we've collected over the past period. What we can offer within this DR standard depends on the number of virtual machines and the amount of data is between 6 to 24 hours RPO, and an RTO between 4 and 48 hours. And as I was saying, it depends on the number of VMs, because normally we can have, let's say, 300 gigabytes per hour on restore speed. But if we open multiple streams, we can, and restore, let's say, multiple VMs, we can create real high throughput. Same goes for, let's say, a large file servers. If you put it in one large VMDK and we need to restore, let's say, 10 or 15 terabytes of files with one stream, well, you can imagine that will take much longer. So part of also the DR plan is suggestions on, okay, if you change this, let's say you chop up this large VM into multiple VMDKs that we can use into have a multiple streams of restore speeds, so we can speed up the process. So it might be that we suggest, okay, if you change this in your environment, we can create much higher throughput and have a recovery finished more quickly if these changes are met. The DEMA standards, the environment is being restored to an environment that's already prepared, so it's an empty shell that we start filling with data. Within that shell, all the VRF, all the networking components are preset. So DEMA's DR standard will start filling this empty shell with data, and the whole DR plan and testing procedure is being followed during this recovery process. The nice part of this DEMA's DR standard is that there's no storage or VM consumption in normal operation. At the moment that we start the disaster recovery, then we're starting to consume VMs and data storage. So for now, it's only a plan where we have the data in place as a backup set, and we start recovering after a go is set. Currently supported are VM and agent-based solutions. Backup of physical systems currently is restored into an equivalent VM. So that's some stuff to take into consideration. We run on a virtual environment, but there's always the possibility of customizing stuff. But within the standard DEMA's DR, we run within a virtual environment. As you might see, this is technology that we use is the vendors that we use are Commvault and Cohesity. Cohesity is similar to the Commvault solution. It's a backup and recovery environment, and we build our service around it. We can offer DMA standard with both types of technology. If we take a second slide on a second variety, we call it DMA Instant Restore. This is solely built around the Cohesity technology that is stated Instant Mass Restore, which is a mounting of backup storage and having a storage vMotion being done in the background in order to restore data. So you can start the VMs much faster, and in the background restores are being done. So still there is no actual storage or VM consumption within the DR cloud during normal operation, but with the DMAS DR Instant Restore, we can speed up things in the restore process. It still goes that we start the recovery process after a customer's go. The next level is DMAS DR Gold, which I think best describes as an automated in-place restore process. We make active backups of your virtual environment, and those active backups are being replicated to our cloud and are being incrementally restored within our cloud. So it's an upkeep process with an interval between 1 hour or 4 hours. So a lot of changes within your environment are being replayed into our environment. That also means that there's actually storage consumption. Where within the normal process, we're consuming cloud storage in order to fill all the virtual machine data stores with the information from your environment. And as a return, you see that RPO and RTO are much quicker, lower numbers to have a process up and running in order when a disaster strikes. We see a lot of combination of DMAS DR Gold and DMAS Standard. Normally, it's a mix of 80% can be put in the DMAS DR Standard, and mostly it's 20 or 25% of the systems within your environment needs that gold level of restore. There is a variety on that, which is based on James block tracking based VM replication. There is one thing that we need to tell you about is that it's a high bandwidth usage environment. So every change within your virtual machine is being replicated to our environment with a certain delay. That means that every change of your environment is being pushed over the line. So that's something you need to be aware of. But this can be the way to go for certain machines. It's only for a VMware environment, and we want to make clear it's not a backup, it's a replication method in order to have your machine in our environment ready to go. Top level is, as we call it, DMAS DR Platinum. It's a live sync replication. Every, let's say, a second or 2 seconds, data is being transferred to our environment. It's a continuous data protection process where all the IOs that are happening within your production environment are being replayed at our environment with a very small time gap. This is also very high bandwidth usage and latency sensitive. So it can be really interesting in using this technology for certain processes, but it comes at a some considerations you need to take care of, mainly on the bandwidth part. So all these standard, gold, and platinum services are being described within the DR plan and are being used as well technologies that we stack up in order to fill the disaster recovery needs that your company has. So in most cases, we see that 80% of your environment can be really suited for just normal recovery after a disaster, and 20 to 25% needs the higher level of these DAMAS DR solutions. Well, for us, the paper tiger is not a paper tiger. We like to have a real tiger ready to roll and help you as a company to continue your business after a ransomware attack hits you or when a natural disaster occurs. That concludes my presentation on the disaster recovery part. I wonder if there are any questions or remarks.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Caspar. I think it was a great presentation. Disaster recovery, I think, is the next level in the solidification of managing data for the enterprise, especially in the age of cyber attacks. So I'm looking forward to some questions. In the meantime, Sie können sich gerne auch den Stummschalter unten links draufdrücken und können die Frage auch gerne auf Deutsch richten. Wir sind da und übersetzen das auch gerne, oder Caspar versteht das auch auf Deutsch. Ansonsten, Caspar, I had a question. I heard a lot about DR runbooks and DR workbooks. What is the difference? I'm getting a little confused. We have DR plan, DR runbook, and DR workbooks.
Yeah, well, the DR runbook or the DR workbook is, let's say, a document that we share with our customers as a first awareness document. Okay, my organization needs to think about disaster recovery of IT. What considerations, what step do I need to take? That's the workbook. It's some kind of appetizer for disaster recovery, and it can be freely downloaded from the website. At the time, the customer says, okay, DMP, please assist us with setting up a disaster recovery service. A disaster recovery environment for our environment. The things we deliver are a DR plan, which is more of the whole plan. Okay, what is it we are protecting against, and what's part of the plan? What are the communication strategies? What are the recovery time objectives? What DAMAS DR services do we need? And then there's the DR runbook, which is actually let's say, the cookbook that you can follow step by step in order to do all the necessary steps in the recovery process. So the DR runbook is the practical part that's written for an audience that is that knows their way around IT and knows their way around the software solution that's used. But it's written this way that if there's in your company a problem with people that are not available at that time, it's also a runbook that we can take by hand and start assisting you in running the disaster recovery. So yeah. The DR workbook is the starter, the appetizer. The DR plan is the actual plan, and the DR runbook is the step-by-step guide.
Yeah. Okay, super. I have another question, and I have in Germany, we have a lot of Veeam customers out there to whom we are speaking with, and maybe here in this audience there are also some Veeam customers, not only Commvault customers. So what is our offering to them? Is it the same? Is it necessary to switch first there, that the on-premise solution needs to be switched to make a real big investment towards DR, or can they also be sort of embraced with our DR solution offerings?
Well, currently, DEMA's DR is built around the technology that we use, and that's built around Commvault and Cohesity technology, and we use NetApp technology in the background. So I think we can have a discussion with those customers that are using Veeam, and they actually want to have a successful DR. Maybe we can offer a solution that's more suited. Currently, we don't have, let's say, our DEMA's DR services based on Veeam technology. We use the technology that we deliver, but we see a lot of customers that want to talk to us about what's the impact of, can you assist us in an impact analysis? And then we can have a talk with your company and take a look at the environment that you're using and evaluate together, okay, can this environment offer you the capabilities that you need? So we can do an impact analysis, and in certain cases, the technology you're using is very capable of providing the DR scenarios that you need to run. So we can assist in the preparation part, but the DEMA's DR services are built around our technology.
Ja, thank you, Caspar. So the first step, der erste Schritt ist einfach der DR Workbook. Ja, das ist the first step, really.
Yeah.
Or the one even before is asking, I mean, we are here for you, wir sprechen Deutsch, ja, ist einfach Ihren Ansprechpartner oder mich anzusprechen, hey, das Thema von Caspar, das hat mich interessiert, Disaster Recovery. Da sind wir noch nicht so optimal aufgestellt, also da würde ich gerne den Dialog aufnehmen, also einfach uns ansprechen.